Okay, I'm going to show you how JAMon and JMX are integrated within the new version 2.80 and above. To do that, I'm going to use a JMX viewing tool, JConsole, which comes with JDK. And I have JAMon running in Jetty right now, so we'll look at statistics from that. I'll pick that from here. And there's an MBean for JAMon under this category right here. Two sections. I'll talk about current and delta, but right now let's look at current. And so all these will, or most of these will show up by default. Let me just quickly go over with them. All this data is also in the JAMon web page if you want to look at it there. But you can tell what exceptions, how many exceptions have been thrown, and it will show you the most recent stack trace. This allows you to reset the JAMon statistics and to see which version JAMon is. The next two are for garbage collection, and this will show you data for the most recent GC firing, how long it took, and what some detailed information was about it. And then for, in this case, I have a mark sweep and a scavenge GC, so it'll give you more detailed data about those and their statistics. This is just a standard JAMon data that you would see in the web app, which has things like hits, so this GC was fired, the mark sweep was fired one time. When it was last fired is last excess, and the standard numbers here. Probably the interesting one is on how long it took on average. The units are in milliseconds, by the way, and then different categories of ranges. So look at the JAMon site to learn more about these metrics. And the same thing for scavenge. You'll see that that's probably been called more often. That's been called 6 times. And then the same principle applies for the other standard ones. If you have Jetty, you can see the page hits for Jetty. Again, there's hits. There's been 34, averaging 213 milliseconds. Tomcat I don't have running, so that wouldn't be there. And then you have different ones for the SQL statements. This is all my SQL statements that have been running. And so 30 SQL statements have run, averaging 1.6 milliseconds. And I won't go into these. These are obvious: delete, insert, etc. for SQL. And then the other one is log4j. So how many log4j types of these categories have been called? So 10,000 total log4j log messages have been put in my log. So let me just show you a couple things. There are a few things that you can't do from the JMX interface, and I'll go into that now. Here's the standard JAMon war. I'm going to filter that down just to get the GC, garbage collection numbers, and you can, let me sort this. You can see the ones we just looked at were the time-based ones. What I can do is click on a listener, and I'll do that now. This will capture some detailed information about each of the GC firings. Now I'm going to go back to the JMX console. Within, where is it? Java Lang memory. This is part of the standard JDK. You can fire a GC whenever you want, so I'll fire it twice. And now if I go into the FIFO buffer, you'll see that it captured detailed information about those two firings. This is how long it took, 33 milliseconds and 40. But it has all kinds of information about before the GC fired, memory statistics, and then after. And I won't go into that. That's part of the standard documentation for the Sun JVM. But let me go back. And you'll see all those metrics for the memory. It will track how much memory in bytes was in that particular pool after the GC had fired. So that might be of use also. Okay, that's the standard JMX MBeans, but you can also add your own, and I'll show you how I added these that you see in the screen right now. Any JAMon label monitor can, such in this report, can be added to the JMX console, and the way you do that is you add them to the JAMon API properties file, which is actually here is an example of it. You put it in here with the label, the units, and optionally you can, because that can name, in like for example here, is quite wordy. You might want to put a shorter name, and that's what this third optional element is. So you'll see all of these appear within the as MBeans within the JConsole. There you go. And I won't go over delta in any degree except to say you can tell how many. It has the same values as the previous, as is current, but it just lets you do an update. So right here, if we go in here, it will tell you, if I click refresh, this will be 0 because I haven't called any methods since the previous time that I did a refresh. And so if you want, I can let me do. Okay, I'll generate the data, which will generate a bunch of log4j messages. I'll call that twice and go back, and here I do refresh, and then this should have the number that have changed since I previously, number of log messages since I previously called. Okay, that's all. Happy monitoring. If you have any questions, certainly give me an email. Bye.